You're listening to the Inverted Creative Podcast. I'm Allison.
I'm Bryant.
And I'm Jen.
Bryant, did we ever decide if we're letting Jenn back on this podcast after last weekend?
We definitely had some discussions this week. Long discussions. I think we're going to give her one more shot. Just one more, though. We'll see.
Well, yeah, who's going to talk about talent at Dorney Park if you kick me off?
35 seconds.
I know, that beat last week's, 5-minute whatever?
Yeah, beat it by 5 minutes.
I mean, if you guys are going to roast me, I'm just going to go for it real quick.
Episode
we
3.
could never kick Jenn off, ever. No way.
No matter what she thinks about Adventure Express.
Oh, yeah, that's a hot take. Save for later.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a few minutes. Anyway, welcome to episode 2.
We made it.
Inverted Creative Podcast.
We're not a rookie podcast anymore. Look at us.
Well.
Holy crap.
Episode 2.
I did want to say thank you so much to everyone who listened to the first episode. We've gotten so much positive feedback, and it's been fantastic. We love it.
Yeah, it has truly been wonderful to see the positive feedback we're getting, and very happy to see it.
Absolutely. All the retweets, likes, whether you listened or you haven't, we appreciate it so much. And for those of you that have listened, we've gotten just amazing compliments so far. So thank you so much. We are obviously still a very new podcast, so probably give us a few episodes to get our feet wet. But so far, couldn't be more thankful of all the support so far.
Yeah, for sure. Gives us good motivation to keep going.
Absolutely. And we got some great guests lined up, especially today. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that here shortly. Start out. Do we want to answer the trivia question from last week, Bryant?
I think that would be a good way to start. So if you had listened to 2 weeks ago, that episode in entirety, we said which parks were our home parks. Mine would be Six Flags New England, Allison Kings Island, and Jenn Dorney Park. And I had asked how many roller coasters combined of those three parks are over 150 feet tall. The answer to that, well, we only got Superman at New England. Dorney Park has possessed Iron Menace and Steel Force. Not Talon at Dorney Park, just
not
under.
At Dorney Park.
I did not do that purposely. And at Kings Island, you have, of course, Orion, Diamondback, and Banshee. That invert is over 150 feet. All those combined, the correct answer was there are 7 roller coasters over 150 feet tall at our home parks. And we want to give a big I'm sorry, I can't talk, guys. I had a very long day and a very long weekend. A big congratulations to our good friend Alex, who was the first to correctly answer that question.
Yes.
Yay,
Alex, so proud of you.
I know he's doing a celebratory twerk right now, which we learned
yeah.
he may or may not be able to do very well this past weekend.
Twerked us all under the table.
Speaking of last weekend or this past weekend.
Oh my goodness. I can't.
We officially all got together for the first time as a podcast. So I should probably explain why. For those of you that don't know, obviously my big social media accounts is a account called Coaster365. And I am not one to throw myself birthday parties and haven't really throughout the course of my life. And this past weekend was not my birthday. However, it was my half birthday. And I thought this would be a really, really silly excuse to get all of my very closest friends together because I turned 36 and a half, aka 36.5, 365. I only turned 36 and a half once, and I thought, you know what? The people that I wanted to invite, a lot of them were around Kings Island. It's a beautiful fall weekend. It's fall foliage everywhere. It's a great park. Let's all get together for a party. What's that?
Jen had never been to Kings Island.
That was honestly another big reason that Jen had not been to Kings Island yet. So I thought it'd be a good way to get her there for the first time.
Yeah. I made it. I made it finally. Everyone
And
thank Bryant though, because I have been saying that I'll go next year for like 3 years. So
and you know what?
This was
Glad
the
it
year.
happened this year. It was like, I mean, you could have said no, but I'm very thankful you didn't. It could not have gone more perfectly.
Oh, it was a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that. It was a little busy at the park. That was really the only con, but we expected that. And honestly, considering how busy it was, and we did get to go back to the park on Sunday, we were
Right.
pretty productive. And I was mostly concerned for Jen, it being her first time, just how much she'd be able to ride. And well, you pretty much rode everything, Jen.
Except for in Vertigo, but that's okay.
that's
I did not want to ride that again anyway.
I also missed the hang and bang, which is also
Mm.
fine.
And
That
the Kids Woody.
if you could pick 3 coasters to miss, it was those 3.
Yeah,
Definitely.
honestly. But we got a Great Pumpkin Coaster.
Yes, the Great Pumpkin Coaster. I'm now about to. Oh wait, that's not the one that I was thinking of. But also that was fun.
Which one were
Considering
you
that was
thinking of?
previously kids only, I didn't think that was a
Yeah.
credit I would ever get, but apparently they let adults on this year.
Train full of them.
Yeah, our whole party took over the train. It was great.
Yeah, we looked like a little crazy in a line full of children asking to take over a whole entire train.
Here's the thing. I have this rule if I'm at a park alone, I will never ride a kiddie coaster alone. I don't judge you if you do. For me, I would feel weird. But when you're with a big group, and you can take the whole train over, it's honestly can make for some of the best memories. I think you alluded to that last week, Alice.
Yeah.
And that was our first ride of the day. So I think, Jen, we should toss it over to you. Like, what were your highlights, your lowlights, your normal takes, your hot takes?
Oh, okay. So overall, I really liked the park. It was a little hard to wrap my head around, like, how busy it was. Like, when everyone else was talking about how busy it was, my biggest shock for that park was that the walkways are so big and it's so spread out that I was like, what are you guys talking about? There's, like, no one here. And then every queue was, like, over 2 hours. And I was like, what the heck? Like, my mind could not, like, wrap around that. Which isn't a bad thing. I like that it's so spread out. It doesn't feel very crowded.
Hi, Soka.
Hi, Soka.
Hello, guys. She says she loves Kings Island, apparently. I had some coaster takes. I'm so sorry. I'm going to start negative, of course.
That's
Always.
a good thing.
Save
Yeah.
the best for last.
Flight of Fear might have been the worst coaster that I have ever ridden in my life, but it has the best theming, so I wanted to ride it. So I wanted to love it. I wanted to love it so bad. The theming's incredible, but I was like literally holding my head with my hands because I thought my neck was just gonna snap.
I had the pleasure of riding that ride with Jen. And so I get to hear all her emotions, shall we say, throughout the course of that ride. That I don't think is a hot take. When I did my reviews last year, Flight of Fear got the lowest score of any Kings Island coaster. It's just not. The Kings Dominion one is so much better. It's smoother. I don't know what it is. It's just a shaky thing, man.
And it comes to a hard stop on the mid course too. Like, I don't know why.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It like literally stops.
It was really a rough one. My other really rough one was Adventure Express. It's an arrow.
This is where you're wrong.
Yeah.
It just it was a little too janky for me. Like, the theming was so good. I wanted to love it so bad, but it just it was a little too janky for me.
We got on it twice. You did say your second ride was better, right? And we were more towards the front. Am I making that up?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, it was phenomenal for me. Thought Thunderation at Silver Dollar City was my favorite mine train. I think I'm putting it back to Adventure Express. I love the thing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess as a mine train, it's definitely one of the better mine trains. I wanted to love it a lot more than I actually did.
That's fair. I know Laurel, our friend Laurel, is probably not too happy about that take. But
Yeah. I just remember that second ride. We were very unhinged, and I was laughing so hard the entire time. It was great.
yeah, we may have gone to the parking lot halfway through our day, and
Some refreshments.
I had some quote orange juice. Uh, I believe Adventure Express was our first ride, right when we got back.
It was a good time.
Yeah, it was a good
Yeah.
time. That helped.
It definitely helped. And again, like the theming was so there that like with that it got like a lot better. But it still like was at my bottom tier at that park, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so on to good stuff. I really liked the bat. Really liked it. I like aero suspended coasters. I think they're like some of my favorite arrows, so I knew I would like it. And the foliage was gorgeous.
Mm.
Oh, the whole park was gorgeous.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was peak foliage, like last weekend of October. Bat, like I remember loving it, but like with the foliage, I forgot, and I love how isolated it is. It's like its own little land of the park, and it's smooth. The sway is awesome, just going through the trees. That thing is amazing. It's also where we took our first promotional picture because hello, orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry I kept like forcing y'all to take pictures.
Never.
Yeah, we
No.
still didn't even take that many, honestly.
We all look great in that picture. I'm sorry. And I'm usually one that criticizes myself a lot. I think we all look awesome in that picture.
It was cute.
Yeah.
Tree was gorgeous. Like I took multiple pictures just of that tree.
Yeah. No, it was
Yeah.
the way it was like the same shade of orange as his bat
Mhm.
was like incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It was beautiful. That tree specifically was one of the most beautiful trees. Um what else did I really like? Banshee.
What's
Oh,
Banshee? I only know
That
Talon at Dorney
Spooky
Park.
Screaming Talon.
I know. Wow, I can't believe you led with that.
Yeah, I honestly me neither. But the my thing with Spooky Screaming Talon is like, was it my favorite? No. Like I wouldn't go out of my way to ride it, but I was really like impressed with how unique the profiling was on a lot of those inversions.
Mm-hmm.
Um I am terrible with the names of inversions, but there's one inversion that just felt like a JoJo roll. And I was like, how are we in the middle of an invert? And I just had a sensation that feels just like a JoJo roll, like very elongated and
Mm-hmm.
spread out. So it's so unique that I did like it a lot.
Yeah, no, that was for sure. Like I usually don't like a lot of inversions back to back to back. I feel like those inversions are paced so well. There's no cobra roll, and I had only ridden it once last year in the very front, and everyone was saying, "Oh, don't ride in the back, don't ride in the back. It's so shaky." And we rode, I want to say 6 and 7, row 6 and 7.
Somewhere around there.
I
Yeah.
thought it was fine. I
Yeah.
didn't. I've been on way rougher inverts.
Yeah, I didn't think that it was overly shaky. Like that's not what I walked out of that thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, it I didn't think it was overly shaky. I also yeah, I like the vest restraints too. Like that's the other complaint I hear a lot. I didn't mind them. I thought that they were like a very nice experience to have in an invert.
Yeah, it was different. I've never. I mean, I feel they take away more from a dive than they did necessarily for Banshee.
I appreciate no headbanging.
That too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's not a lot of headbanging and I can see everything. I really liked being able to see the things around me.
Yeah, your peripherals aren't cut off for sure. I
Exactly.
actually didn't think
So
about that. That's true.
I like that aspect of it a lot. Yeah. My other big highlight, I mean I think my biggest highlight out of the park was Mystic Timbers,
There
which
it is.
Yes.
There
was
it is.
yeah, that was like my most
Mm-hmm.
anticipated credit there. Absolutely incredible. A man ruined my night ride with flashy glasses,
Oh
but
my god, that was so
fine.
annoying.
That was so annoying. Why? How could he even see anything?
Yeah, because of like obviously it was haunt. So like during the day the lines were bad. Haunt time, that's when the park, was absolutely messed. So we really only got one night ride, and we picked Mystic Timbers for it. It was phenomenal, but in the front row, this guy had these like sunglasses, not even just regular glasses that were just all flashing. So literally, that's pretty much all we can see as we're going through the woods. It was
Oh,
still great, but what the hell,
it
man?
was hauling through the woods, and like they
Oh,
had the fog going where like it
mm-hmm.
just sat in the last valley before the final breaks, and it was impeccable.
Yeah, that Kings Island, like the fall at night is
Yeah, that
peak, peak.
yeah. It really was. Like it I don't think there could have been a more perfect time to go. It I really liked it. I also really liked, sorry, last one I'm going to comment on. The Vekoma Boomerang, like the family one. That was my first like new gen Vekoma coaster other outside of Disney. Like as a whole, and I liked it. I feel like it had like pretty surprising moments that were like it I feel like a kiddie coaster you can have absolutely no type of thrill, or you can have like something that's like that's too much for a kiddie coaster, and I felt like it was the perfect balance.
Oh
It
yeah,
definitely had some forces. Yeah, that was I had only ridden a Midnight Flyer at Santa's Village in New Hampshire, which that is like a family coaster. This thing had some speed. I was actually really surprised. Like the turns were really fun. Obviously, it's glass smooth. I was expecting it to be like, all right, let's just get the credit, but no, it was actually legitimately fun.
it fits in really well in that area of the park
Oh
too.
yeah, for sure. It takes away from the freaking hang and bang, which. Ugh.
Yeah, that whole area of the park was also so stinking adorable. Like I
Mhm.
was very very surprised.
And I just gotta say, our obviously you gotta go. What next time you go to Kings Island, you gotta get a night ride on Beast, but day ride on Beast in the fall. Holy crap, that was one of like the most beautiful roller coaster rides I've ever been on. It
Yeah, it
was
was
so
gorgeous.
pretty. Uh
Yeah, it was very out of this world beautiful.
I think what I made this like connection with Beast, and like yes, there's not really any airtime. It's really just speed. It just feels like the equivalent of a roller coaster hike through the woods. You you can't see any of the park. You just literally feel you are just in the middle of nowhere. Even more so than Boulder Dash, which is at my home park. That's like another roller coaster ride through the woods, but you can see a lot of lake compounds on that ride. Where this is just like it's you and nature on a roller coaster.
Yeah, that's definitely the benefit to it, I think. I think in any other environment, I would not ride it like ever,
Hmm.
but in that environment, it's a very special coaster.
Yeah.
I also like could not wrap my head around like how long it was. I know it's the longest coaster, but the whole entire first half, I was like, how is it still going? Like
And then you hit the second lift hill.
yeah, and then you hit a second lift
Yeah,
hill, and it's like, what? Like, how? How is this even like? I don't
I
know.
love it. And that the helix at the end is just
Of course.
amazing.
Oh yeah, that
Oh.
helix is pretty top tier. That was a
Mm-hmm.
very good helix.
Beast is great. We also obviously did Orion and Diamondback. Both are. I got a redemption on Diamondback. My last ride last year did not have a good ride. Rattle City
Hmm.
was not the correct theme. I know it's themed to snakes. I don't like rattling though. So
And
much better this time.
we
So
had a
much better.
gorgeous sunset ride on
We
that.
did have a sunset
Oh, it
ride.
was so
Yes,
nice.
I really, really, really liked Orion.
that
Like,
was your first gig at Kings Island.
it wasn't a Giga, it was a
There we
Hyper,
go.
but it would be a Giga with 13 more feet.
Yeah, that's you get it on the drop. 300 feet.
No, no,
God, you suck.
I'll argue this for the rest of forever.
But you would say in the discussion of Orion and Diamondback, you are Team Orion.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Diamondback was good, but to me, like, I don't know. I feel like there's really good hypers, and then a hyper's just a hyper.
That's fair. I will say I think there's definitely better airtime on Diamondback. I was like definitely Orion over Diamondback, and I still slightly am, but only slightly. Diamondback really grew on me.
Yeah. I like the speed that comes with the
Yes.
almost gigas.
Agreed. Oh God, no, I don't agree with that.
You did just say that you agreed almost a giga.
Shut up. Anyway, so, and then we rode Backlot, we rode Racer,
One side of it.
one side of it. Am I missing anything else? I don't think we rode 12. We rode 12 coasters, which was pretty good.
It was a solid. I almost said day. It was a solid three trips in 2 days.
Yeah, we popped in twice on Sunday for like 2 hours each, because in the middle we went to we didn't go to the game, but we went to like the bars outside of the Eagles-Bengals game.
We were game adjacent.
We were literally right next to the stadium. Yeah.
Yeah, so we could hear them cheering when anything happened.
The Eagles did destroy the Bengals in the second half.
They did.
Can I get a you know what, Jen?
Go Birds.
There it is. I can't believe I asked for that. Ugh.
Birds. Also, giant shout out to the bar we went to for having gluten-free beer.
Yes, Yard House, just outside of whatever the Bengals stadium is called these days.
Paycor Stadium.
There it is.
Why do I know that? I don't sports.
I'm proud of you, Allison. There we go.
Yeah, I had a gluten-free beer while I watched the Eagles go Birds, and it was fantastic. So
it was a phenomenal time. I can't thank you two enough. Obviously, shout out Sarah, Taylor, Kevin, Alex. Who else am I missing? My wife, Megan. Well, I should probably thank her. She planned the whole thing. I love her very much. She was the MVP.
Megan
was someone else that was there. Some
weird guy.
What's his name again?
Mike.
Yeah. I guess we like Mike.
He's okay.
No, the restaurant he recommended, that Korean hot pot.
My stomach was hurting until the next day because of how much steak I ate.
We ate so much food. It was phenomenal. So I love all you guys. That was definitely a weekend I will never forget.
So good.
And Kings Island, top notch in the fall. So I'm very happy I picked that place. I'm very jealous of you, Allison.
Just got to come to Cincinnati more often.
Honestly, once a year. That would be nice.
I'm down.
Let's go.
Please just keep coming back to my city. Makes life much easier for me.
Yeah. We'll see. Kings Island is definitely a possibility for me to come back to.
I have to ask you before we go to our guest, Kings Island or Cedar Point? Now that you've been to both.
This is such a hard one for me because anyone who doesn't really know me and hasn't had this discussion with me, I have two very different park moods. Like, sure, I love to go and get things done sometimes, but I also have such an appreciation for like a chill park. And I am okay with going to a park and being like, we're just gonna hang out and not ride a single thing, and I'm okay with that. So I like them both for very different reasons, so I don't think I could pin them together. Coaster-wise, like which one I would prefer to go to ride coasters is going to be Kings Island. Mm-hmm. But you can't be like the beach is incredible, like sitting under enjoying some orange juice under Magnum. And just listening to it and vibing with it and waving to people on the hill. Like there's no spots to really get that at Kings Island, walking on the beach. So yeah, that's a really long-winded way to say I cannot choose.
They're very different vibes.
Yeah.
They really are.
Very different vibes. So yeah, I love them both for different reasons.
Well said. I mostly agree with all of that. Yeah.
All right, well, that's enough rambling about Kings Island, I think. What do you guys say we get to our first ever guest of the podcast?
The first ever guest. That's true. It's a big moment.
It is. So we are so excited to welcome our friend, Gary. He is the creator of the Coasting with Culture YouTube channel. If you have not heard of it, make sure to go check it out. I would recommend going to check out some of his videos even before listening to the rest of this podcast so you can get an idea of what he does. But anyway, welcome to the Inverted Creative Podcast, Gary.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about content creation, talk about some travel, and all sorts of good stuff. And yeah, getting to be the first one on here, that's pretty freaking awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there's so many people out there who do such great stuff, and to have been considered at least worthy of being among the first episodes, I feel like it's kind of a big deal. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Well, we want to take a look at a different side of the kind of coaster and theme park industry and YouTube channel. But first, you want to go ahead and tell us about like kind of how you started the channel. How did everything kind of come to be with Coasting with Culture?
Yeah, so way back in the day, as a regular part of Theme Park Review and being within their forums, there was a point in time in which I started to dabble with doing some video here and there as my younger sister was off on her internship for college and I sublet her apartment. She left one of her camcorders there, so I went ahead and I borrowed it and I took it on a trip with me to Western Washington when I was going to see my dad while I was still living in North Carolina there. And that was kind of the first time I really toyed with it and did some travel videos. And I thought it would be fun to continue doing something like that, but it just kind of sat on the back burner for many years. Kind of came back up a little bit when I was in Florida working at Disney World. And then I probably really started bringing it back up around the time that I started a website called The Traveling Mr. Taylor, because I was substitute teaching at the Edmond School District in Washington. And I wanted to showcase some of the travels and places that I went to. It was more of a blog at that time. And then came the point where I started doing tour guide work instead. So then I was like, well, that name doesn't really fit anymore. So what could we call this whole thing? And the idea about how I traveled to different places internationally, combining theme park visits and riding roller coasters with these different cultural experiences in these other countries, that's just kind of naturally came to be the Coasting with Culture name. And it started off pretty much being a continuation of that blog for a bit. Then I think it was around 2018 in the summertime, the idea of doing video came up again. And so then I started dabbling with that and put up the first official vlog of the channel, which was going to the Chelan County Fair. And it's kind of been continuing on from there.
I think for me that's why I love your channel so much, is because I am not just an enthusiast. Like, I am, well before liking roller coasters, I just love traveling in general. I love sightseeing. And I feel like, I mean, to each their own, I do feel like way too many enthusiasts out there are just about like creds, and that's all they want to do and not see like any of the countries they're in or any of like the cities and towns that, that are around that park anyway. And you're like the best at hitting both of those worlds. And
Yeah.
dare I say, sorry, no offense to whichever guests we have on down the line, I don't know if we're topping you in the department of best voices. Your voice is so relaxing, and it's just like peaceful. Like you're just in the best mood possible listening, to your voiceover work on your videos. So
I'm going to credit a combination of maybe 5 to 8 years of my childhood doing commentary for wrestling figures when I'd play with them as a kid, because I would always emulate some of my favorite commentators. And every so often, you go to the backyard and swing a baseball bat to replicate big moments in baseball games. And I'd emulate one of our legends of radio broadcasting here in Seattle, a guy by the name of Dave Niehaus, who was the longtime play-by-play announcer for the Seattle Mariners.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I kind of had this idea of like trying to make a way of presenting it, or I should say, the idea of like knowing how much your voice can influence the feel and the sound and everything. And then probably the biggest influence in the way that I present would probably be a gentleman by the name of Rick Steves. For those who haven't heard of him before, He's a travel writer that's based out of Washington State here, who writes about destinations in Europe. And as part of his whole brand, Rick Steves Europe, he also does a travel show that he shares with the public broadcast system. He also goes ahead and sells DVDs, and he goes to these different destinations. And the way he presents it is that same kind of calm and informative way. And so I started to incorporate that with mine, but also throw in a little bit of dry humor here and there because I'm a former skipper of the Jungle Cruise. And it kind of sticks with you.
That is very true. We actually just talking about you, as your guest, as our guest coming up, like, oh wait, Gary worked at the Jungle Cruise. That's awesome. So that's actually a good segue into like, so if you can share some of your experiences of working with Jungle Cruise, like, obviously I rode that ride, growing up all the time. I guess I never knew, like, do they feed you the puns or do you get to create them on your own, or a little bit of both?
I think it might have changed since I was there, but when I was there, they had a pretty well set script as to what you would follow. It'd be a combination of jokes that were made by them. You could kind of change how you presented it, maybe word it a little bit differently. But the idea was that you had this script, you had these jokes. These jokes weren't going to make anybody mad. And if somebody did happen to get really angered by it or whatever, that they went to complain about it, it's in the script.
Right. Yeah.
They could kind of say that. So if we went, off on our own tangent in some way that would make somebody mad and it wasn't on the script, then you get a little trouble for that one.
Oh my gosh.
So what was your go-to joke, out of curiosity?
Oh man. So I always think of my time at Jungle Cruise as kind of like 3 phases. The first phase was, the really energetic skipper who was really into it, bouncing all over the place. Phase 2 was the trying to get by because doing 60 hours of going around and around and around to make sure the bills are paid was just kind of a bit much. And then I got into my happy medium, which was my my deadpan delivery style. So it was like the entire Jungle Cruise, you just do this. Welcome everybody to the world famous Jungle Cruise. My name's Skipper Gary. Watch your step as you enter. Like just that entire time. And then we go around and we get to the end. And as we're pulling into the dock, we'd start off by saying, well, again, ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until your boat comes to a complete and final stop because only crazy people stand on moving boats.
Oh my God.
Even bend over, laugh in some kid's face. That's saying right there. Get out. I'm sorry, that was really rude. Please get out. Watch your step and watch your head. And if you hit your head, watch your language. It's a family attraction. We want to keep it that way. And always remember. Wait, I forgot. And it'd be like 10 minutes of just deadpan delivery the entire time. And there was one point where when going by where the headhunters are, or no, where the hippos are, there's that iconic scene with the hippos where you try to scare them off with a gun. And some of the skippers come up with really creative things to say. And I would just kind of say, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to pass by some hippos, so I need to scare them away. And I have this really loud gun, so please cover your ears. Bang. 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 I scared them away. We're safe.
God.
I am very jealous that I never got a Skipper Gary ride.
Yeah, that seems like it would be a really good one.
Love that.
So I want to kind of do more of a deep dive into your process, like as a filmmaker, as an editor. What kind of is your production process like from when you are taking the footage to getting the finished video out on YouTube?
So with a lot of the videos that I've made, if you're looking at like the travel videos, a lot of that is just kind of experience from what happens when I go there. There's certain things that I know I'm going to do. There's certain places I know I'm going to go to, but I don't necessarily know ahead of time for every single place what to expect when I get there. So it's kind of a sharing the experience of it as it happens type of thing, and just kind of sharing thoughts about it as you discover it. And then when doing the actual editing and script writing, I kind of write it out based off of giving information about what that place was and the significance of it and what I thought about it, if it was something that was particularly memorable, things like that. And then there's others where if it's more the informational videos, it's more about kind of pre-planning what you're going to say and then trying to kind of find the footage to match with it. So like with the series that I've kind of dabbled with over the past, let's say maybe month or so, A New Way to Coast with Culture, the idea is that you share some information about a new coaster that's coming up to a park, and then you talk about an attraction that's nearby. And I'm purposefully trying to find things that I haven't done in those places to kind of go along with the idea of doing something new. It's a new coaster, so why not go see something new at this particular place? And so that's a little bit more based off of trying to see or trying to find things that fit with what's being said. Whereas with the travel videos, it's more like, let's see what happens, and then we're going to make the video based off of that. Although there have been some times where um, I might have some idea that comes up before even heading out to a particular place, and I kind of pre-plan some little bits of it here and there, some particular shots that I like to get. And I feel like going into future travels, I might try to do that a little bit more, just to have it a bit easier organized. Because when trying to put stuff together off of memory after however many weeks or however many months, sometimes it's a little tricky to remember all the details. But sometimes it's easier when you pre-plan what you're going to shoot and what you're going to share.
That's definitely something that, since I've started making YouTube videos as well, it's definitely, and this year especially, when I'm doing more like script writing and more videos from like at home, it's definitely a challenge for sure. But
Yeah.
speaking of like trips, and for those of you that don't know, um, Gary has been on some trips in his life,
A
and
few.
and has ridden some coasters. Another challenge for our future guests. We talked credit count last week or last episode. Good luck to anyone that has more coasters than this man right here. If you like to share maybe your coaster count.
I mean, I know some folks who are higher than I am, but I guess within the circle of friends and folks that we know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little higher, as I during the visit to do the 287th episode of the Drunk Riders, I think the two coasters at Stricker's Grove put me up to 1373.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that's a
Huh.
lot.
Fun fact, our 3 coaster counts combined still do not touch yours.
That
I
is
mean,
correct.
I will say though, if you were to look at, if you were to do like a quality index of the ones that I've ridden compared to the ones that are in each individual count that the three of you have, I'm thinking my scales down quite a bit in that regard, because there's a lot of wacky worms and a lot of dragon wagons and a lot of random roadside carnival coasters and some that ended up taking bus rides into foreign cities where I don't speak the language and
Oh
things
my
like that.
gosh.
What's funny is, before, on our way to Kings Island, we actually picked up Jenn in Pennsylvania, and we actually stopped at Scene 75 in Columbus to ride an SBF Visa, and we literally messaged Gary, or I forgot who messaged Gary. Was it who was?
Oh
I
no.
forgot who it was. But basically, we're like, Gary would be proud,
And I
and
was
you very much were.
Yeah,
so
I
proud.
never rode one. I kept saying how much I wanted to ride one.
They're actually a lot more fun than I think people give them credit for. I mean, is it going to be as awesome as going on like Time Traveler that's at Silver Dollar City? No, not even close. But, for what they are and for where they are, they're fun rides. You
Oh
get
yeah.
some decent spinning on it. If you get it balanced in a way that gets it twirling around, they can make for a great fun ride. Although I am ashamed to admit that I did once wait 2 hours for one because it was at a fall festival that was in the Chicagoland area and the line was massive.
What?
I basically planned on spending like 2.5 hours at this place, and it was pretty much just to ride that coaster because of
Oh,
how
I
busy
don't
it
know.
was.
that is like, I can't say that I would wait 2.5 hours for like any credit. No, that's a lie. There are some out there, but it's definitely like maybe Ride to Happiness or Terran, not an SPF visa.
I mean, don't
Well,
get me wrong. I've definitely waited in some long lines for a couple of bigger coasters. I mean, Bryant might be able to attest to this, having been to Japan recently, but Fuji Q, they get some
ugh.
atrocious lines at that place.
Oh yeah, we
We
were
got
lucky.
there, yeah, we got there maybe an hour after the park opened. So we missed out on being able to get any of the fast passes. And in the day that we were there, I was able to get Takabisha after, I might be mispronouncing that.
No,
But we
you got it.
rode, oh, it was Takabisha? Okay, so we
Takabisha.
rode Takabisha after about a 2 hour and 15-minute wait.
Ugh.
And then I rode Fujiyama after a 2 hour wait. And then rode the weird single car coaster that's suspended after an hour wait. And then I got on the Rock and Roll Duncan, and that was the end of the day.
Oh,
Jeez.
good lord.
So didn't get Dodo Donpa, even though it was open at that time. Didn't get on the Wild Mouse that was there, and didn't get on Ejinaika. It was just too
Oh,
busy. It was way
oh,
too busy at that place. So that is definitely on the list to get back to at some point
yes,
for sure.
absolutely.
And
That.
so you
Oh,
weren't even able to like go back and get them.
No,
Oh no.
it was one of those things where we pretty much had every day pretty well booked out as to what we were doing. And there just wasn't time to make our way back there. We were pretty much staying in Tokyo the entire time, and it's about 2 to 3 hours to get there,
yeah.
as we did it by train. So it took a while.
Well, that especially Dododampa while it's open. Ooh. Hey, well, not for Dododampa, just another excuse to get back out there.
Right,
So
right.
that leads into of all these trips that you've done, and I want to say you've been to pretty much. I think have you been to every continent at this point?
Except for Antarctica.
Well, okay, well, yeah. One of these days, we want to write a credit there. We're gonna ship an SBF
I'd,
visa over there at some point.
I'd be happy just to go for the sake of seeing the penguins
Oh
and
yeah,
going to
no,
see the
for
Yeah.
ice
sure.
caps and all that stuff. Like, I'm pretty certain that if the opportunity comes along, I would go there. I wouldn't hesitate.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't have any problem doing a trip out there and probably even sharing it on the channel. I mean, I have one trip which wasn't coaster based at all, and that was going to Hawaii,
Okay.
for taking my grandfather's remains to be interred at the National Cemetery of the Pacific because he was a Pearl Harbor survivor. So
No
there are
way.
trips where it
Okay.
doesn't involve coasters, and I certainly wouldn't mind sharing those. But yeah, coasters are a big part of it too.
Of those trips, what would you say has been the most creatively inspiring one? I know there's many.
Hmm. Oh man, I'm trying to think of which one was the most creatively inspiring.
I mean, another way to ask that is like, which trip, when you were like filming and kind of thinking about the finished product, were you most excited to get back and be like, I have to work on this video because I have a vision for it?
They all kind of feel like that though. Sometimes.
That could be an answer.
Yeah,
though.
you can just say that as
Yeah.
an
That
answer.
could be an answer.
Yeah, there's no specific one.
So I'll say it's hard to specify just one because there's often something inspiring about each experience or each place. And it can always be something different with each one. I think about like the time that Allison and I joined fellow buzz bars in Europe, and there was that day out in Amsterdam where things just went haywire. And
That
at the
was a day.
time, it wasn't fun at all. And then I think about after the fact, after I had a chance to kind of cool off and not be as bitter and hostile at the time, it's like, this could make for a fun story. And so it's kind of one of those things I had in mind that's like, okay, how am I going to share this one? England was another example that I can think of because I remember just kind of thinking about the basic premise of, having their cars where their driver sits on the other side of the vehicle. I automatically had this thought when I was getting my rental cars, like, I could make this into a gag, and then I can make it a gag when I get back home. And so then I knew for the entire week when I get home, I'm going to film this gag where I get in the wrong side of my own car and have the little edited ending there that I do. And sometimes it's just little moments like that that come up as you travel. As far as one that I'm really looking forward to getting to here soon, the next series I'll be working on, as I just finished up the Italy trip, is when we went into Tunisia, because there's some
Ooh.
sites there that are just incredible. And it's one of those places that not very many people think to go to or make a point to go to. And, you know, if I was going to try and tell you that the coasters there were incredible, no, not really. But it was still one of those things, though, where the journey to get to them, you know, you're going through the sub-Saharan desert there, you know, you've got the mountains off of the side, and then you're passing by these towns and you're seeing a little bit of that architecture and how there's a lot of things that are painted white because that helps keep things cooler because of how hot it gets there. And then the actual exploration of places like Carthage and going into a beautiful neighborhood by the name of Sidi Bal Said, which is kind of their version of Santorini in Greece. It's kind of the same thing there. White houses, blue trim all over the place. They have these phenomenal views of the Mediterranean. And so sometimes it's also just the excitement of getting to share some of these places that I look forward to.
That's really cool. Yeah, I only know Tunisia for being the home of Tatooine.
Oh yeah, that was something that I remember looking into at one point, and
that's why I wanted to go there.
apparently you need a 4x4 to get there, so that'll have to be saved for another trip because we definitely did not have a 4x4 or four-wheel drive.
Man.
Yeah,
What a missed opportunity.
Tunisia is definitely one of those places like you don't expect to hear about people going on for a coaster trip.
No.
And also,
Gary does though.
you've also been to what, Botswana for creds?
Yep, there was one. It was
That's my favorite.
Schwarzkopf. And oh man, what are some other odd countries to go to for coasters? Brunei was another one. So Brunei is a great example of a place you go to kind of combine the two, because the park that they have there, it's more like this city park that has a couple of amusement park rides, and that's about all there is to it. But then you get into the cultural side of it, and you know they had the Regalia Museum that shows all these different weapons and armor from the armed guards and the ceremonial pieces that they wear when the Sultan would do parades and things like that. They had the carriage that he rode on when he was named the Sultan of Brunei. And then you go into the nearby water village, and there's somebody there who will offer you a boat ride for like $10 and take you around the water village. And it was just such a cool experience. And half of the time I feel like when you go to these different places, even when the coaster that you're going to ride isn't significant or it's that great, sometimes you get these experiences that you just don't expect, even stateside. You know, you go to a town where they have some random FEC, and then you find out there's a great restaurant there, or they have the world's largest something or another to see. Sometimes you get to a place where it's just these incredible views from the valley below or the mountains nearby. And I think that's half of why I enjoy doing the ridiculous coaster hunts, because yeah, they're not great rides necessarily. They're not going to blow the doors off of anybody's top 10 list, but the journey to get there is half of the fun.
Oh, totally agree.
Oh my God, yes.
I know my family kind of questions me in this hobby, and they're like, are you going to do anything besides ride roller coasters on a trip? And I'm like, well, yeah, because like just getting to these parks gets me to new places I never thought I'd go. Like I probably wouldn't have gone to Belgium otherwise, but I've had one of the best nights of my life just hanging out in Antwerp for a night. Nothing to do with coasters at all.
And there's so many incredible experiences to have out there. You know, it's anywhere you go. I mean, I still remember just taking that overnight bus ride to go ride some jungle mouse in the middle of the foothills of the Andes in Peru. And there's this park that's in town that looks like it's something right out of a Dr. Seuss novel. Like that's the kind of stuff that just makes it so incredible when you start exploring these different places and try out these different experiences. And there might be some sketchy moments here and there where it's like, oh, was this the right turn? Or you have somebody come and
Right.
tell you, you don't want to walk over that way. That's the dangerous area. It's like, oh, okay.
That was our experience when we went to Colombia when we visited Parque del Cafe, which I believe you are also one of the very few people that we know that have been there. We walked up not expecting just how insanely gorgeous the surrounding landscape was, and just the park itself. Like, obviously, we went there for the original Zambezi Zinger, but at the end of our day, we're like the coasters were like second, if not like third priority of our day there. Like it just everything else was just so beautiful. We were not expecting that, to the point where we want to go back to Colombia, not necessarily for the rides, but just to see more of that area of the country. So I
And did you get
completely
a chance to
understand.
try the food while you were there?
Oh yeah, we definitely have some food. Yeah, and it's you can get like the largest steak dinner of your life for like $15. It's great.
I still think my favorite thing in Colombia the entire time I was there was getting the repa con carne, which is like this fried cornbread,
Mm-hmm.
and then it had like shredded beef in it with some pepper and some other seasonings to it. Oh, it's just delicious.
Yes. Oh.
That sounds
It's
incredible.
making me hungry.
That sounds
So,
incredible.
so switching gears just a little bit. I know you are currently back in school. You decided to go back to school. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? What made you decide to go back to school? What you're studying? Things like
Yeah.
that.
So I am currently taking classes at Bellevue College, which is one of our community colleges here in Western Washington. I'm in the digital media arts program, doing the associates program that they offer, as it felt like a really well-rounded program, as you learn a little bit of graphic design, you learn a little bit of video production, some 3D design and video game design and things like that. And then you choose one track to go into, and the track I chose to go into was video production. And really the biggest inspiration for doing it was really this channel and working on the coasting with culture stuff, because like I said, I did it as a hobby a bit here and there. And then as I got older and I started doing more with it, um, I started to kind of have this thought of maybe it could be something to do professionally. And, I've always been my harshest critic. Like there's so many times where I look at something that I make and I'm like, yeah, it looks okay. And then I hear, the wonderful things like what you guys were saying earlier about how it's a phenomenal channel and things like that. And it's just like that little bit of validation um, from you guys, from others who I've talked to and who've talked to me about the channel. It was one of those things that just told me, yeah, I should go ahead and give it a shot and, go for the formal training and find out a little bit more about, how to make it a better quality video, how to shoot these different videos and things like that. And so that's a big part of why I started doing it. And at this point, I have about one more year to go. I'm currently in a video integration class and a motion graphics class for this quarter. And if everything goes well, I should be finishing up in the spring.
We'll have to throw you a
That's
graduation
amazing.
party.
Absolutely.
Yay.
Yeah, we should.
That is sick.
Another excuse for everyone to get together for a weekend.
Right. Hey.
I mean, it is going to be right around the time that England's happening.
Oh, snap.
Oof.
All right. Well,
Cool.
I'll buy you
So
a drink in England.
maybe something after that too.
I mean, I do need some creds in the Pacific Northwest, so
Indeed.
We shall see.
With
2025, maybe.
with going back to school, have you, in the process of being in school, changed anything that you've done with your channel, like the creation of your videos? Have you taken any of that and used it yet?
Not yet. I do see where I'm probably going to look into making some changes though, because with my limited familiarity on animations and things like that, I've always felt like there was a way I could kind of spruce up the opening screens and things like that. Maybe add in a little bit of some kind of graphic design to it or motion graphics to it to give it a little bit more juice, if you will. And so that's something I'd like to try and incorporate more into it going forward. I think there's also just the aspect of knowing what kinds of things to look for within the shot, like the rule of thirds and framing and considering the different types of shots and how they look. There is a little bit of it that doesn't necessarily fit with what I've done in the past, because a lot of times I try to get like bigger landscape video, but then there are times where sometimes doing something like zoom in or extreme close-ups could be really helpful in showing more detail, or there might be ways to incorporate Dutch angles to give that kind of uneasy feeling that we talk about in class, or doing a bit more with color correction. I've learned a lot more about like exposure and how to get the shots prepared, and so I feel like the footage quality is starting to show some improvement. Um, and then just kind of thinking ahead to things I would like to incorporate and planning things out a bit. I know one of the things I've tried to do, I've been kind of half and half successful, has been to try and write out things as I go with the script, having my laptop with me and trying to put more immediate thoughts down. And sometimes trying to plan ahead with some of the things that I know for sure are going to happen, so that I can start kind of thinking like, what kind of shots would I want, to really strengthen it and make it even better. Because when you are doing it the way that I've done it, where it's just, let's get there and see what we find, you could definitely find some great shots, but sometimes if you think ahead, you could, better manage your time and better use it to be able to get more variety in the shots and really kind of strengthen it in that way. And I think that's something that I'll probably start to incorporate a bit more once my class or my travel hiatus eases up a bit and start going to places a little more often.
That's honestly really good advice for for me just starting a YouTube channel last year. Originally, like I'm just like, oh, I just gotta the stress of like having to do okay, I gotta leave a review, I gotta get some off ride, and try to do all the roller coaster in a park in one day.
And can I
And
just say, the fact that you managed to make a video every day is phenomenal. That's one of the things that I've looked at with my work on Coasting with Culture, is that I've struggled, especially when things are really busy with class and with my day jobs and, just life in general. And I'm trying to keep up with doing just one video a week, which, they might be a little bit more intensive because they're longer
oh
and
yeah,
there's the voiceover aspect of it. But to see what you accomplished with that in that year, I find that incredible. To be able to post a video every day for a whole year is just absolutely mind blowing to me. Like I don't think I could fathom the idea of being able to do that. That's incredible.
well that really means a lot, Gary. Seriously, yeah, it was. I don't like failing goals that I set, so that was really the big motivation. Even if I was stressing about it, trust me, many times last year I'm like, I'm just gonna forget this. Like, let's just end it. But people like you and obviously all my friends and family kept me going. It worked out. But like honestly, the advice you just gave, especially about planning ahead and like thinking things to say, that absolutely would have expedited the day. Like, because instead of having to, okay, I got an off ride, like I got some off ride. Okay, now I have to think for 5 minutes. What do I want to say? What do I want to say? If I'd, especially like going into it, the stats and some of the histories, if I had all that in the bank before I even went to the park, definitely would have made the filming process a little less stressful. So that was really good advice.
And I also say that I think you've definitely done a better job than I have with the self-facing camera and giving that in-person discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I There's been times where I purposely don't do that for my own videos, because like I'll find myself trying to record something and I'll have so many um uh
It took me a while,
uh
trust me. Oh yeah, it's. I'm sure if you look back my like January videos versus December, I like to think I improved, especially doing it 300 sometimes before that. It's definitely helped me become a better public speaker for sure. Because before that was my big hesitation before when I started the channel. Like, I don't think I'm the best speaker. I definitely do a lot of ums and ahs and mumble and stumble through my words sometimes. And I think honestly that's helped me wanting to do a podcast. If Allison asked me to do a podcast 2 years ago, I probably would have said no. Like I'll be like blah blah blah. Roller coasters probably like the whole time. So
How do you think I feel now, having never done anything like this?
you are so much better than I was. Trust me. You sound great.
Well,
Gotta embrace the mistakes, guys. It's fine.
And I'm curious, Gary. Do you use a like camera or do you use your phone?
So it's been a little bit of a combination of a couple different phones that I've used over the years. Like, it was mostly phone based because it's the easiest to travel with. You just
Yeah.
stick in your pocket. When you see something, you pull it out and you film. There was a couple of times where I have tried to use. I have a DSLR Canon Rebel T3i that I used for a couple of trips. I used it in Hawaii, and I used it for when I did a big trip across different parts of Canada. And I did that because it had the capability to do 24 frames per second instead of the typical 30 that phones do, and give a little bit more of that cinematic look. And so I wanted to try and incorporate that a bit more. But then there is kind of the safety factor when you go into some foreign countries where if you're walking around with a DSLR camera like that, you might bring someone who wanted attention to yourself. And so safety considerations have definitely been a part of it. But I did end up getting a new camera that I'm using that I'm hoping to be able to put to some use for some freelance work as I go further into the video production way. That it's smaller than the DSLR. It's a mirrorless camera, Sony Alpha 6700, and the quality of the footage that it gets is just miles better than the DSLR was.
Interesting. Okay.
And the ability to get up to 120 frames per second in full HD, 60 frames per second in 4K. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, especially, when you're making videos for YouTube and you typically make it around the 1080 range or so, or the full high definition. But when you make it with 4K video, it just comes out a lot crisper and a lot more clear. And it gives you the ability to have the option to do some zooming in and not have it start to pixelate. And so that's something I've kind of get on the fence on. If I wanted to take that camera with me to some places, it might be kind of a case by case basis, but I certainly wouldn't mind it, as there's things you could do with a camera like that phones are kind of unable to do, especially when it comes to zooming in, because phones do have the ability to zoom 10 times, but it doesn't look as good as you would if you had like traditional lenses
For sure.
like
And that's been the one limitation with my channel. It's all on my phone, and I only can only do so much with the phone. So that's actually cool that you've used some other options for sure. Allison, you were saying before I rudely interrupted.
You're fine. So there's been a lot of talk so far about like improving and, kind of changes you made over the course of the channel. Where do you feel you've grown the most in your filmmaking? Like, what's the biggest change you've seen since the start of your channel?
I think it's been finding ways to make things more concise. Not having as much lag in different parts of the video, trying to make it so that there's a better flow with what's shared and what's described. Because I look back to the first couple of video series that I did, like going to Mexico in 2018 or the Southeast Asia videos in early 2019. And those were made more like a typical vlog where the only dialogue is what you share when you're actually doing the self-facing camera. And that sometimes would have, kind of the long pauses, like when you're thinking things out as you're saying it, kind of what Brian and I were talking about with the whole self-facing filming and trying to make it more concise. And then when I started doing the voiceovers instead, I feel like that helped me get to that point where I could make things more concise and then kind of pick my spots for doing the self-facing camera for that immediate reaction, kind of think it through before filming it. So I think that's definitely been one thing that has certainly helped. And then just kind of generally looking for ways to improve the actual footage taking. There were times where I found that when filming a roller coaster, for example, I'd have the camera facing it, and then as soon as it finished the element that I wanted to, I'd kind of turn the camera or I'd hit stop. And so it didn't get a chance to fully exit from the screen, or it would look kind of odd. And so then you have that bit of movement to it. So I had to kind of teach myself to try and wait a few seconds later to allow it to finish. So that's something else that I've been continuing to practice on. I think that I've gotten a little bit better with.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. What about your content itself? What do you see yourself expanding into? What do you think is next?
I definitely want to keep doing the travel vlogs. I feel like that's a big part of what it's about. But I would like to get to a point where I might be able to add in some of the other video series ideas that I've had, whether it's making video guides for different parks and destinations and talking about things you could do with those places. There's a couple of those that I've got on the channel already. There's the continuation of the new ways to coast with culture, talking about a new roller coaster coming to a place and something you could do when visiting the park for that new roller coaster. And at some point, might kind of join the bandwagon with you guys and maybe try doing a Coasting with Culture podcast at some point.
Ooh.
I've
Having the
heard
time
rumors
for it.
about that.
What's that?
Said I've heard rumors about that.
Yeah. And I think the idea for that would be to bring on somebody who, might do their own vlog or their own blog, or even people who are professionals, kind of like you, but talk about the park that's like their home park, or the park that they document the most, or something along those lines, or the place that they work for, and then get into things they could do with those different parks or places. And I think that's something I'd like to eventually do. Probably not right now, since I've got classes I'm trying to balance with, keeping up a day job, but at some point I think I'd like to try dabbling into that as well.
I will be your first subscriber. That is for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. I like that.
Now you have the perfect voice for podcasting.
Oh, I know.
Too.
It's like you have a face for TV and a voice for radio. It's a great combination.
Gary's the total
one half of that is true. One half of that is true.
Lies.
And I'll give you a hint. It is definitely the voice.
So before we get to our listener questions, one more from us. Do you have a favorite video that you've made? And if so, what made it so special? We're putting you on the spot yet again.
Yeah, no worries.
You're a guinea pig guest. Maybe we should send some of the questions before the guest comes on, so they have answers ready. That's on us.
Oh, no worries. No worries. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad idea, though. Or at least, of an idea, and then just kind of see how things flow from there.
Agreed.
All right, let's see. So one video that I really enjoyed making because of what happened during the time, and then just getting to share it, was up in Alaska. I did an extended weekend with my friends Rick and Keith, and we go to the Alaska State Fair to ride the only permanent roller coaster in the entire state of Alaska. And we end up doing some sightseeing around the area, head down to spend some time in Anchorage. And the day before I fly home, or the day of my flight home, I go to see the long trail that's just outside of the Ted Stevens Airport there. And I remember seeing all these signs that said, there's going to be bears. Watch out for bears. Even saw a pile of bear poop on the path that I was walking. It's like, oh, this might end up leading to bears. But then I'm walking by these bushes and I see what looked like the backside of a horse in the bushes. Like, that's no way that's a horse. And it starts walking forward. So I walked to the opening and it was a moose.
Oh.
And it was a lady moose who started looking right at me. And I'm like, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just here to admire, because this is awesome. And then eventually it was one of those things where it's like cascading, getting even better, because the whole couple of days leading up to that wasn't a whole lot of wildlife other than just typical birds that you would see in a city. But then you see that one moose. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Start walking back to get to my car to get back to the airport. And then there was a bull moose that was in the bushes. You could see his antlers sticking out
Oh my
from
gosh.
the bushes. And then it started continuing after that. And then there was another bull moose that was like right there right on the other side of these bushes that were like 5 feet away. And then as I get back to the car, and I think I was on a phone call or something like that. And whoever I was talking to heard me go, ooh, 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 I gotta stop. Because then there was another female moose with a baby with her.
Aw.
And so it's just one of those things where like sharing that experience was fun for me because it was one of those things that I had no idea was going to happen. And that's something I really want to keep in Coasting with Culture travel videos, that aspect of things that weren't expected or things that come up that can make for a fun story, even if it was a pain at the time in hindsight. But I don't want to totally lose that aspect of it in the process of trying to plan ahead and have things a little bit easier to film and whatnot.
Absolutely. Oh my god, that's like the most Alaska story of all time. I love it.
Crazy.
That's why you go to Alaska, right?
Yeah,
To see
exactly.
things like that
And get the cred.
and
Yep.
get the cred.
There's actually 3
That's true.
because there were
That's
2
true.
fair ones there.
Yeah,
Oh
One
my
was a wacky worm, the other was a dragon wagon.
iconic.
Harry,
That
I
is-
do have to ask though, do you have wilderness experience at the Magic Kingdom? Because I saw a deer like at the Magic Kingdom on the walkway right outside.
I'm pretty sure I'd seen deer on the roadways a couple times when driving over into the cast parking areas. I only once saw a gator, and that was when I was on the bus getting back into the cast parking area from Magic Kingdom one day, as we had a shuttle that would take us to the parking lot from the backstage area. And the entire 3 years I lived in Florida, I only once saw a wild gator, and it was on the bus in this pond that was right next to where the buses turned around by the cast member parking lot.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've obviously seen deer in the area, but this was literally like underneath the monorail, that walkway to the Grand Floridian. It was just standing on the walkway.
Did you happen to hear somebody singing a song nearby and other woodland creatures show up?
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what happened. There were a bunch of creatures there.
Were you singing that song?
Oh my god, are you calling me a princess, Gary?
Maybe.
Jen does have a
Maybe
very good
even the
singing
first
voice.
one.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, I'm
let-
blushing.
let's let that be the last time we talk about deer in this podcast. Anyway, that's a story for another day.
Yeah. How was Waldemar?
So, yeah, all right. Listener questions. We have a bunch here submitted by our lovely fans. We're gonna start off with some guy named Marty, who may be from New Zealand.
Oh, Marty.
We love Marty. He asks, what keeps you motivated to film and document your journey? He struggles to find the time for basics like photos. And he says, it's always impressive to see your travel videos and the great storytelling along the way.
So, as far as the photography and video and stuff like that goes in the parks when traveling around, part of it's just because I really enjoy documenting it. You know, I've sometimes think that if I did just the videography side of things, maybe not even as much the editing, I could definitely enjoy getting into that field because I love trying to capture unique angles of different places and finding ways to show something. And that's half of the fun for doing that when traveling because you find these ways to show these different things. There's, you know, maybe you could add a different angle from above of a historic landmark, or maybe you find that artsy shot where you've got the fountain that's right there. And in the background is that historic structure, you know, things like that. Like I love trying to find those different kind of shots. I think another part of it is also because I know people who don't necessarily have the opportunity to travel to such places. I will be the first person to say that I have been incredibly fortunate to have been through this series of life events and things like that that have allowed me to be able to say that I've been on 1,300 different roller coasters across 6 continents and 30 some odd countries. Um, because, I worked in a tour job that gave me a lot of flexibility to how I did my schedule. So I could go ahead and take advantage of really cheap flights. I've also got my really good friend Philip, who, for all intents and purposes, is the first sponsor of Coasting with Culture because of his welcoming me to use his flight benefits. So that definitely helped save a lot of money for some travels, and even really saved me in that South America trip when I had to fly back to Miami to replace my phone because it was on the fritz and couldn't get it to work for
Ugh.
nothing. So there's definitely, those aspects of it. And so, I find that sharing these experiences for people who may not be able to do such things, one of the biggest examples is actually my dad, who lives over on the other side of the Puget Sound, and he's up there in age and he's got his share of health issues that make it hard for him to travel. And so he's watching the videos, and he and I talk about some of these different places. He's even, um, he and I talk about some of his experiences traveling in the past. And sometimes when I go somewhere that he's been to before, he'll share a bit about what it was like for him. And then there's times where I go somewhere that he probably wouldn't have even thought twice to go to, like trying to find a wacky worm in the middle of Indonesia or something like that, which I actually haven't been to Indonesia yet, but some point. But
There's
I think
places you
that's,
haven't been yet? What?
yeah, Indonesia
Shocking.
is one I haven't done yet. But there's definitely that aspect of it too. The idea of sharing those experiences with others who may not be able to. Um, and then also just kind of the idea of maybe helping motivate others to find experiences in places that they might not have expected to.
Love that. That's a really good answer. Yeah. All aboard that mentality.
So, on a similar vein to that, Alex, who we gave a shout out to earlier for our current
All right. We don't need to give
trivia
Alex
master.
too much love. Come on.
Well, he's worth it. But he asked, what advice would you give to a novice looking to travel internationally for the first time?
Honestly, I think don't feel ashamed to go somewhere that's easy for the first time. Don't feel any shame whatsoever to do something that's easier the first time. There's no reason to put yourself in a situation where you're going to a far off country where you have no idea what the language is and you have no idea how you're going to get around. And, if it's easier for you to go to Canada for a week to start, do it. You're going to go through the customs process if you fly into Canada. And even with the land crossing, it's still getting some of that international experience because you are going to be going through the kinds of questions you'll be asked when you go to other countries. Um, and you'll have to consider the differences in your travels. And sometimes when you go to places that are easier to travel to because you don't have the language barrier, you experience things while you're there that you don't necessarily anticipate until it actually happens. So, you got to consider places go by the metric system. And so you got to kind of watch speed limits a bit differently. There's the differences of which side of the road you drive on. And, if you're having to figure those out, plus you've got the language barrier, or you're going to places where the driving can be really sketchy, um, then for sure, you know, don't hesitate to go somewhere that might be a little easier first. I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. And then as you get that experience and you find out about what it's going to take to make it through those places, then you start up in the game a little bit. First trip, maybe go to Ireland and get a chance to explore there because there's great sights to see in Ireland that I haven't had a chance to yet, but I'm planning to next summer. And then the next summer, perhaps you go ahead and take that journey out to like a South Korea, a place where English is not very commonly spoken, but they still have really good public transit to get around Seoul if you're going to stick around Seoul. And then, maybe at that point you up it to like parts of South America where you might have to get onto a bus that takes 7 hours to get to one city or another. And you have to kind of figure out how to communicate. So that's definitely the first bit of advice I would give. And then the other one would be it will go a long way if you can learn some of the simple phrases, like where's the restroom? Hello, thank you, goodbye. Um, if there's certain foods that you're going to want, or certain things that you're going to need. You can learn how to say that in those languages, and that can certainly be helpful. I'm surprised by how much other places know English, but I also found that when you at least try, it makes a huge difference because they'll see that you're trying and they will certainly appreciate that. So I would say that's probably another big thing to keep in mind when going international.
Yeah, I fully agree because I had been to Canada, pretty much solely Canada until I was like 25, and then I went to England, which was like slightly step up, and then Paris and Rome, which is more advanced than that, but most people still know English. If I hadn't done those trips before I just went to Japan and then consequently Colombia last year, the culture shock definitely would have been way, way, way more intense than had I not done like Canada and Europe first. So very, very sound advice for sure.
And I will say that if folks are feeling like they want to take it a notch up, maybe not go with the safe bet, so to speak, with like a Canada or a UK or an Ireland, Japan is an excellent place to go if you are wanting that little bit of a higher challenge because they have such a great public transit system there.
Mm.
The signage in their trains and everything is written in English. So,
Mm-hmm.
if that's one of the big concerns, that certainly helps. And the Japanese are just incredibly courteous. Like I still recall this time that I was there and I was at Haneda airport trying to get on a flight to Fukuoka, and I'm at this little shop. The cash register doesn't have any kind of display on it to show what the price is or anything like that. The woman took one look at me and could tell that I don't speak Japanese. She took a calculator and typed out the number for the price of a Coke that I wanted to buy and just showed it to me.
Yep, that sounds about right.
And so it's like that, she knew how she could let me know how much it was, and it made it so much easier. And that's something I never really thought of before. And I think I started incorporating that into some of the things I would do as a tour guide. And some of the tour guide work that I do when I have passengers who are from other countries and they don't speak English.
Yeah, Japan's incredible in every way. They're almost too courteous sometimes. in the best way though, in the best way.
Yeah, it seems like a very like good middle ground for someone who doesn't speak the language but still wants to go somewhere just a little different than Canada, UK, Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think so. We can move on to our next question. We have John Mike who asked, what was your first ever international trip and what has been your favorite international trip?
Oh, I can already tell you that second one's going to be a tough one because that's like asking someone to name their favorite kid. But the first one I can answer really easily. So, as a young wee little baby, my mom and dad took myself and my older sister into Vancouver for a day trip. So, pretty simple. We were living in Bellingham, which is just south of the
Oh
border at
my
the
gosh,
time.
yeah, that's not even.
So
you're basically Canadian, Gary. Let's be fair.
I mean, I've had friends who called me Canadian when I moved to North Carolina, and I told them I was from Seattle. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, there was that. There was another visit to Canada with my grandparent or my grandma and my aunt Vicky when I was 11 or 12 or something like that. So really, what was the first true international trip that was overnight? My younger sister Allie and we flew across from North Carolina to San Diego the winter of my sophomore year of college. And we met up with my dad, who was he was able to travel at that time. He met up with us in San Diego. We drove over to a town that was right on the border with Mexico, and we were picked up by a family friend, a guy by the name of Frank Spaccartelli. Oh, Frank. So we go across the border and are heading to a town called San Felipe, which is right on the Baja California Peninsula, right on the Gulf of California. And as we're driving down there, it's like a 2-hour drive of just desert, like nothing in the area in a different country. And Frank is driving like somebody who should have had his license taken away 5 years ago. As we're going through and bottoming out this Buick that really shouldn't have been driving through this valley where it's a 2-lane road and there'd be these dips where floodwaters would go across the road. We end up having a couple of bottoming outs. My dad sees a road sign that says the speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour. And he's like, Frank, the speed limit's 80. And Frank goes, I am doing 80. My dad looks at the speedometer. He's doing 80 miles an hour
Oh,
instead of 80
Oh boy.
kilometers an hour, which is 130 kilometers an hour. So 50 over. And we stayed at this little shack in San Felipe that my grandma bought. And this little itty bitty shack with 6 of us in there, because my Aunt Susan, my cousin Eric were staying there as well. Whew, the plumbing was an issue at that place. The shower would constantly back up when people would
Oh.
take it. And so like it wasn't draining out very quickly. It'd take 20, 30 minutes to drain out after someone finished a shower. And the morning that we were heading back to San Diego, I'm trying to grab a shower before we get on the road and I'm trying to speed it up. So I take a small bucket and I start pouring the water into the toilet right next to it. And I flush and I see the water bubbling up from the shower. So it
Ooh.
turned out the clog was further into the pipes. Like, oh
Oh
no.
no.
So then I start like scooping it up and trying to chuck it out into the backyard. And my dad's like, yeah, we're not going to have time for this. We need to just go ahead and get going. So, needless to say, that was the experience, but it was still a really fun trip being able to just walk along the coast in the wintertime where it's nice and warm and then going into the little town there and getting a chance to try some of the local food. It was a good time.
That's an experience. Holy crap. No pun intended.
Right.
That is wild.
Allison, do you want to last I think we just got one more here.
Yeah. So from our buddy Steven, who we've actually traveled to Poland with Gary.
Heyo.
He asked, what is one international location that you've already been to that you'd be happy to visit once a year, every year for the rest of your life?
Man, that's almost as hard as John Mike's almost as hard as his which one's your favorite. If I was going to pick one though, honestly, I think it might be Japan. Like I've only really been once and I did a connection to get to Singapore through there. So I think part of that might be because I really want to get back and see more of it. But thinking about the range of different places that they have there, thinking about the different climates they have as you go from island to island and some of the different parks that are out there. There's so many different parks that we didn't even scratch the surface of what's available. And also being a big baseball fan, I loved going to see a Japanese baseball game. And I think that would probably be a part of every visit to Japan if I was to go there over and over. So I definitely think Japan would certainly be a good candidate for that role.
Yeah, when we were at Tokyo Dome City, the Yomiuri Giants were actually home that night, and the game was going on while we were at the park. The timing just didn't work out. Like we couldn't have gone to Tokyo Dome City another day. It was painful. I mean, obviously it was awesome getting on Thunder Dolphin, but knowing wow, there's actually a Japanese baseball game right there. And for those that don't know, I am a diehard baseball fan. One of my big bucket list achievements in life is to see a game in every Major League Baseball stadium. So to add on a bonus in Japan, that would have been incredible. So I second that notion for whenever we do return to Japan. That has
How
to
many
be
of
a
the
must.
how many of the ballparks have you covered so far?
I am at 17 of 30.
You got me beat by about 10. I think I'm only to 7 or 8.
Okay. Seattle is one of them, which
Yeah.
I very much love Seattle. Yeah, it's although I don't know what's going on now with Vegas and if the Rays have to move now apparently. I don't know how I'm going to count those, but yeah, one day.
That's awesome.
Speaking of sports, quick word association, Gary. What does Malcolm Butler mean to you?
I know I'm not supposed to swear, so I'm going to say this as politely as I can. Shut up.
If you didn't win the previous Super Bowl by like 75 points, I maybe would have been a little nicer, but you know.
I will say, watching the one that the Seahawks won, I'll be the first to admit that was probably one of the most boring Super Bowls to watch.
Oh yeah.
Except for me, I loved it because my team was dominating. It was just an absolute delight to see that Percy Harvin reversal go for a touchdown, seeing Peyton Manning miss that hike and have that become the first 2 points already right off the bat. It was one of those things though, where even when it was 42-8 with like 4 minutes to go or however long it was, there was still a part of me that was like, they could come back. They could totally blow
Oh
this. They
yeah,
could
for
blow this. They
sure.
could blow this. Like,
If
it
you've
was,
never won before, there's always that doubt.
yeah.
But
And the
hey,
only other,
as a Patriots fan, trust me, we were taking great joy in seeing Peyton Manning get his butt kicked. So.
and the only other time that team of mine won anything was when the Carolina Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup in 2006, because they were the team that got me into hockey.
Okay.
And so it was pretty close to when I started watching. So there was certainly that aspect of it. But it was different though, because the Seahawks were one of my childhood teams, and to see
Right.
them win, the only thing I think that would surpass it, and based off of the recent past, I don't see ever happening, would be if the Mariners won the World Series.
I hope that happens one day too.
Oh,
I do like the Mariners. Yeah. By the way, Hartford Whalers, shout out. Anyway, that's the Sports Minute for the podcast switch. Sorry, guys, may or may not be a thing going forward. We'll see.
I have no contributions to this segment.
I'm just here for the ride. Go Birds.
Go Birds. There it is.
So, Allison, what are your thoughts on a 3-4 defensive package versus a 4-3 defensive package?
I like
Allison,
roller
say Go
coasters.
Birds. The answer is always Go Birds. Always.
Well, Gary, for those that don't know, obviously you could maybe tell over the course of this podcast, I've met a lot of people so far in this hobby. If you told me to pick 3 that are just the best human beings, Gary might make that list. He is just such a sweet guy, just one of the best people in this community, and it's been an honor, and it was honestly a very easy choice for our first guest.
I appreciate the opportunity to come and join you guys, and feel like, you know, if folks are thinking like, then at least the bar is set low enough that everybody else can surpass it.
No.
Gary.
But no, honestly though, genuinely, I really appreciate the opportunity to come and join you guys for this. I think it's so cool to have something that kind of dives into the kind of behind the scenes and creative aspect of things. I know we did a lot of talk about travel, because that's kind of the thing with this particular channel, but it's really cool to kind of talk about like the actual video making process and things like that. And I'm really curious to see who is to follow, and the kinds of things that you guys get into, because that's the kind of stuff that I get really fascinated by it, because I love hearing about what other people come up with. And, you know, it would be great to kind of, especially when getting into more folks who get into YouTube or make video content, getting a chance to hear what they have to say, because, you know, some of it might become a source of inspiration for some changes, like how my intro that folks might be familiar with, that goes, I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture, which that whole bit was really inspired by favorite YouTube channel of Allison and I's, which was Kara and Nate, because they always start with their videos off with some kind of a hook and something that kind of grabs your attention at the beginning. And then you hear Kara saying, "We're Kara and Nate," and then kind of going into it. And so that's kind of where the inspiration for that whole Coasting with Culture introduction came from. And so it'd be really neat to hear what other people have come up with and how other people do it in future episodes. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more of the Creative Inverted podcast here. And maybe there'll be a whole episode dedicated to talent at Dorney Park.
Oh my God, what an idea, guys.
It's only a matter of time.
A whole episode dedicated to it.
That would wait for that. Oh man.
And I just looked, and it took me 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 24 seconds to say it. So I might have done it a little bit longer.
Oh yeah, just a little bit.
Just a smidge.
Just a little
It was really close. I was getting a little nervous.
bit. I will say I almost forgot, just like I did the first episode. We're doing some trivia at the end of every episode, or at some point in the episode. So for this one, I thought, in honor of Gary and his home of Washington State, today's question will be: there is a roller coaster in Washington State that is one of only two of its kind from its manufacturer that are currently open. There is a standing but not operating version of this coaster from this manufacturer on the east coast of the U.S., but there is another operating coaster of this type from this manufacturer in Europe. Can you name that roller coaster and the park that it is in? So I know that was kind of a jumble, but real quick again, there is a roller coaster in Washington State that is one of only two of its type from this manufacturer. And there's another one in Europe. Can you name it? And what park is it in?
I think I know which one it is. But
Garrett, you can enter the contest if you'd like.
Oh, that's cheating. Because I already know what it is, so I could just wait until as soon as the episode drops,
Well,
and then
I think, and if you disagree with me, Jen and Allison, let me know. I think for this one, it's going to be a random drawing of the correct answers, not the first.
Yeah, I think giving it a good 24 to 48 hours. I don't know. We'll come up with a timeline. We'll include it in the post, and then we're going to take a random drawing of the people who get it correct and go from there.
I mean, if nothing else, winner will get a shout out on the next episode when we give the answer. If people are like interested in getting stickers, if you're the winner, we can try to make that happen. I might have to order more stickers, but I mean, if that's something people want, I'm all for it. I'll make it happen. Spread the word of a inverted creative podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't promise. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and if this is the first time you're listening, you need to come back. And if this is like weeks into it and they've had other episodes, you need to listen to more, because this is good stuff.
Gary, you are the best. Thank you so much. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the Coastin' with Culture YouTube channel. It is so good. I want to get the handle right if you want to share the correct spelling, Gary.
Yeah, so Coasting with Culture is spelled out www.youtube.com/coastingwithculture. I've also got a couple of social media pages, from Facebook to Instagram to Twitter, where I will give updates on the channel and share news about future travel plans, previews, updates while traveling. And for those, that's going to be at Coast W Culture. So just the word coast, then W, then culture.
It is indeed a W, that's for sure. I'm sorry, that was so cheesy, but I
That was good. Perfect. All right. Well, on that note, guys, I think we are at the end of the episode. Thank you again, Gary, for coming on.
Thank you for being our guinea pig.
Thank you
for
letting me come and talk video creation with you guys. It's
absolutely
fun.
Well, remember, everyone, to always think inverted, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Au revoir.